Enter madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. The curtain rises and the players come out. Webs of light spinning from their mouths. Stop looking, listen for a little while. Attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. On the face of all mankind, the numbers up and the dead woman sign. Go along to get along, hypnotized by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The hordes upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's worldwide genocide. The overlords of hungry parasites. Report the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. Pile of bodies rotten, covered in fire. But no one wants to talk about it. Strings, no more bowing to the masters. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol, in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve.
Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. My name is Cliff. I'm joined by Tim and Dustin. We're coming to you live from Carter County, Tennessee. It is Sunday, May the 15th, 2022. How's it going, fellas?
Fantastic, boy.
Good, good.
Hard to beat fantastic and good. I had a pretty good weekend myself. We had a Friday the 13th on Friday. I was born on Friday the 13th.
Celebratory on Friday the 13th?
I didn't. I was born on Friday the 13th. No, it wasn't my birthday, but I was born on a Friday the 13th.
Is that something your wife finds attractive?
I don't know, maybe.
Let's go ask her.
You tell us, B, if it is. I don't
Find
think
his birthday attractive.
I can say I had a pretty, I guess, stereotypical. I had a bunch of bad shit happen.
Oh, no.
Weekend, but, you know. It was definitely just one of those. You're like Friday the 13th. So I'm like, normally aren't really that bad for me, but this one, yeah.
Well, at least you weren't tortured and murdered like Jacques de Molay of the Knights Templar in France. So you do have that in the win column. I had a pretty good weekend. I shot a lot more ammunition than I intended to, but it means I had a good time. Mm-hmm. So
where'd you shoot it?
I went up to the Pond Mountain Range where we shot the thing there.
Video.
Yeah, I went up there yesterday, and it was a pretty crowded range. But it's kind of one of those things. A lot of times when you have people calling for gun control and things, you'll have people who are pro gun control will say things like, "Well, if you had a lot of black people running around carrying guns, then you guys would change your tunes on that." But they don't know gun people very well, do they? Because when we were up at the range, there's everybody talks to everybody. Black guys come up there and they get treated just the same as everybody else. We want to see what kind of guns they're shooting. We want to check that out. We want to show them our stuff, and that's how gun people are. We don't care what color you are. We just want to check out your guns.
As someone who's not from the gun culture, when I went up to the range with y'all guys, I had to say that I was really impressed with just how cordial. It was very organized. Everybody knew
etiquette and stuff.
Yeah, everybody knew that when a new group of people were coming up, that you weren't supposed to be shooting, give them time to set up, so nothing's misconfused. Everybody would take a break, and people gave each other space. They would shake hands and be like, "Hey, my name's so and so. Hey, you want to try this thing? I'd like to try that." It was actually very civilized, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah. So it was a good time. Got blew the middle out of my targets. Getting better as I'm practicing more. Getting back in the swing of
Plus,
things.
it's really
need to
stupid because if you get
practice
YouTube right now and you just type in gun channels, there's a bunch of black dudes doing it.
Yeah. Monterey is the most famous guy who does Black Guns Matter, which I'm a big supporter of that organization. But we had this thing go on in Buffalo over the weekend that a lot of people of course are jumping on. Saying that guns should be banned and things like this, but there were other people taking a different approach, saying, that this is a good reason for more black people to arm themselves and to destigmatize the idea of carrying guns in public. Because if somebody comes around in a place where people are more likely to have a rifle in the truck, say, their odds of survival decrease significantly, and the amount of time that they will survive also decreases significantly, versus somewhere where people are maybe carrying illegally to save their life, but they're afraid to pull out their gun. Say somewhere like Buffalo in New York, where you have a really restrictive.
That happened in
one of the.
What was that guy's name? His name was Bernie Getz.
Oh yeah, the subway guy.
The subway guy, and he said he just really got sick of being mugged every week.
Yeah.
He said every week if you didn't have money, they'd just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And he said one day he just lost his cool, went and bought an illegal gun, and just started shooting some guys he knew had robbed him at one point.
Yeah.
And I think that was loosely some of the inspiration for that Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie, with that scene where he just loses his shit and starts shooting people.
Yeah.
But that guy kind of think if you look at the interviews of New York City at the time before they found out who he was, they had it's kind of like in King of the Hill when they had the Smoking Bandit episode where he was pedestalized before they realized he was just a pissed off worm. The New Yorkers had really built this guy up to a god level, because he kind of symbolized what everybody felt, that everybody was tired of getting on this hell missile every day with people that were just picking on each other and taking their lunch money like this back in high school.
It's kind of like the end of Boondock Saints, where you had, I think that may have been based somewhat off of that, where everybody's interviewing the people on the streets about the Boondock Saints and how they feel about them, murdering these bad guys. And overwhelmingly, the people are like, well, the people in charge, the cops, are not doing anything about it. So I'm
that
glad
took me
there's
a
somebody
second,
doing
man.
something.
I just now realized you're talking about Boondock Saints and not the Boondocks.
Oh. Yeah, totally different thing there.
Oh, Boondock
like,
Saints. Yeah, where people kind of welcome the vigilantism, because they're not going to do it, and the system's bought and whatnot. What were we talking about?
Oh, we were talking
Friday
about
the 13th and whatnot
Yeah.
tonight.
Well, we got a lot of witchy stuff going on. We talked about witchy stuff in a few episodes, and especially last episode. And Tim was going to tell us a little bit of witchy stuff on account of it being Friday was Friday was the 13th, and then we've got the total lunar eclipse tonight.
It's a blood moon too.
And it's a blood moon. That's right. So
It's a supermoon, isn't it? So it's going to be bigger than so should be able to see it a little bit better.
yeah, and that reminds me kind of a video that was popular about the dead internet theory. B showed it to me. I'd heard of the dead internet theory before, but this was a good video on it where they talked about how a lot of the content being put on the internet is just randomly generated and reused by bots, and you know how there's always
Half the Facebook ads have to be that because they
Yeah.
just don't make any sense.
and a lot of it was talking about these, you know, every week there's a new blood moon or hunter's moon or whatever, and the moon's supposed to be closer than ever, and they show you a big picture in the sky of the moon, you know, and say, oh, it's going to be this big. No, it's never really that big, guys. But tonight it is a lunar eclipse. It should be pretty cool to check out. So we'll be trying to capture some photos and videos of that, and I don't know if we'll have a chance to put that on the show or not. I mean, we do have the ability to go remote outside, but right now the sky's a little hazy.
What
so
you got? For all the camera nerds out there, show them what you're working with.
I didn't
Show them
bring
your
all
work
up.
tool.
Oh yeah, it's my Nikon D7500. Right now it just has a, as you'd say, a nifty 50, a 50mm prime lens, and then I also got my
Good lord.
35 to 150, which is the most zoom that I currently have.
What is it, optical versus digital?
trying to zoom in.
Well, they're
on this
optical.
one.
Oh, so that's just an optical lens?
Yeah, they're just optical lenses.
Okay,
These
cool.
they don't do digital zoom.
Okay.
So your
But you can.
your digital zoom
It's
is
just
when you
fast.
crop it in and post when you're editing it, you can crop it in. And
What we got here?
Oh, we're just checking out the Golf's camera equipment.
It's didn't all
was like-
my face.
Yeah, I was like, well, that's zoomed.
Yeah.
Want people to be able to see what you're working with
It's
there.
got a pretty big zoom on it then. That's all
It's-
optical, no digital.
In zoom lens terms, 150mm is not that much zoom.
Okay.
You know, the Yukons, you can get up to, I've seen up to 1,000mm zooms, even though those lenses are like,
What are these guys taking
that-
like pictures of the moon craters with? Have you seen
you
those
know,
videos?
a lot of them, if they're, sometimes
Take
you
them
can
through.
actually,
I guess about using a drone.
you can actually have certain hookups that you can hook them up to actual telescopes. That you can have your mount
okay.
you can hook your camera body into the telescope
Yeah.
and then just take pictures that way. Or they're shooting, you know, some of them have 800mm lenses.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then in post, whenever you're editing the shot, you can crop it in and bring it up. Because even though my 150mm, it looks like, you know, that in the picture, but I have enough data to zoom it in to where it's about like
So you
that.
get good detail. You're not just fattening
you
the pixels.
Yeah, you can get good. If I get it any more than that, you can start seeing the pixel density gets really sparse. But
Have y'all seen those some of those pictures that were taken by like the Galaxy Ultra? You got a Galaxy Ultra, don't you? Have you taken any moon
How about this
pictures on it?
Ultra? I haven't tried it yet.
It's got a moon mode, and we're getting a lot of buffering here on the stream. It looks like.
Yeah.
I'm buffering too.
Yeah.
It's kind of choppy.
Well, they either catch it or they don't. Well, you want me to fill it with some filler content while we do that? While the thing buffers? Because it might be that, yeah, B says video lag.
Yeah.
So, well, your Wi-Fi's kicking, so it's not you. It has to be YouTube.
I don't know. It's coming across on funny on my OBS program too. So.
Your battery is running low.
Oh, I might want to plug in my PC.
I wonder if that's doing it.
That could be. It could be throttling it.
I thought I plugged it in. I guess I did. Yep, it could be running in what you call it,
Yeah.
low power mode.
For anybody that sticks with us and gets past the lagginess, he's plugging the computer in, and that should fix it. So
Hopefully.
if this bugs you, come back in about 15 minutes. We'll be talking about the supermoon and
I
stuff.
don't know. The PC should be running in enough power even without.
You think so?
It should,
For it to
but
not lag?
I guess we'll see.
That's what
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
now it's starting well. I thought it was.
Well, we'll have to see on YouTube. I would say YouTube's going to have to buffer its way up to itself and fix it.
we're looking a little laggy on both of these there. So, anyway,
Let's see. If not, we might just redo it. Huh?
what do you think about restarting the stream here, guys? I think about.
Yeah, the stream, it's let's see, it's jumping, I think. Well, it's jumped up to the point where I've got these up there, so it's not too far behind. So let's see if it just fixes.
It's just paused right there, though.
Nope, we're back. Let's see.
Oh,
Well, we'll have to see on YouTube. I would say YouTube's going to have to buffer its way up to itself and fix it.
Well,
I think it's going to fix it.
are we working here, YouTube? Let's just see.
Well, I'm going to let this thing, if it keeps playing, what I'll do in the meantime while y'all keep Ben Crabsey says, I thought it was just me. No, I think it's because the computer died, because it looks like the video up here now is moving at regular speed. So, for the sake of just making sure we don't lose any mic.
Still looking kind of laggy on that.
What's it looking like on there?
There we go. Let's try camera number one there. Camera number one usually looks smoother.
Because the video's still kicking on YouTube.
It's looking better on my end.
I think we're doing okay.
All right. Well, tell us about what you got there.
All right. Well, real quick, since we missed Friday the 13th, today's Sunday the 15th, moving into the 16th by the time I get home. Just because we talked about witchy stuff, I'm not necessarily a witch, like I said last time, but since we're doing witchy stuff, here are tarot cards. The layperson probably thinks that, I don't know if people can see that or not, can they? Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
These aren't all the same though. Like when people think of tarot cards, they think of this deck right here, which I haven't even opened these. Pull those out for me, Golf. I'll get these out of one.
I know the
This is what
fool
we
and the
consider
hanged
that.
man from People Under the Stairs.
Jeez. Dark reference. Most people would consider what Golf's got right now the tarot deck, and they would be correct. This is what you would get if you're going to like a fortune teller, and fortune teller beast says looks good for now.
Or cups in reverse.
Yeah, there you go. See, like the artwork though is very traditional. I think this is the 1906 artwork. And this is what you would think of as your tarot deck, which is this right here. This right here is what's called French tarot. This came about in, I think, what's called the French Enlightenment movement or Illumination movement, when people started getting to like mysticism, and they turned it into a card game. I don't know enough about the tarot history. If somebody's going to correct me on all this, I just don't, because like if you start looking at the tarot history, one of the very first things you'll find about the history of tarot is it goes back to ancient Egypt, and it was preserving the history of the prophecies of Atlantis and all this stuff, and there's just no record of that being true, so I can't, maybe 100% true, but there's just no record of that. But what they do know is that that there's records of the tarot existing in 1500s. There's a record of the French bringing it back and making a game of it because of people becoming interested in, I guess, what you would call the old ways, and I don't know, Freemasonry almost, with some of the symbolisms and stuff like that. And I guess the last one I was going to show you was what they call an oracle deck, which is not really even the same thing as a tarot. This is almost like what you call the I Ching. This is by Anita N. Verity. She does a lot of artwork for them. This is what they call an oracle deck, and I bought it because I want to support her. But this is like almost like what I would consider a 44-sided die. You know, like the I Ching. I forget how many die sides would be the I Ching, but it's almost like it makes your decision making easier. If you need to do something, you've already made up your mind. If you have something else kind of external tell you, yeah, you're doing the right thing, and you just go with it, that's kind of what people use a universal oracle deck for. But these are gorgeous cards, though, that she hand painted.
What's the guy's name down there that, gosh, I can't think of it. He did the ayahuasca stuff in South America, and he decoded the Mayan calendar and found that it actually followed the same pattern as the I Ching. Gosh, I can't think of his name. He's like
I'm never going to know his name, but I remember watching a short documentary about him.
Got a beard. Gosh, he's famous in the the conspiracy world. And
It's not McKenna, is it?
yeah, Terrence McKenna.
He was the mushroom guy.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe that's what I was thinking of instead of ayahuasca.
him
But
and
either way, he found that that
he
the
do
Mayan
that?
calendar was
I didn't know that.
was on the same cycle as he may not have found it, but he presented it in where I originally saw that. But it was on a cycle similar to the I Ching. So
Okay.
I've got a copy of the I Ching upstairs. If I don't know
have
what
a
you're
copy
talking
of
about
that
that.
one. I think
It's pretty neat.
Just a
Yeah.
novelty. But,
Yeah, it's pretty fun to mess around with.
Is
Just
it?
it's pretty simple. Just your different tiles that you lay different ways, or your different.
I guess I think this stuff's interesting because they would literally just play this in other countries like it's nothing, and it's really similar to this one right here, and yet like you bring this around, some people even around their home area, they would panic like
Yeah,
it's like a
witchcraft.
like it's a cross being held up to a vampire, and I think this stuff's real interesting because you can either use it much like you would use dye to help you make decisions, or you can look into it spiritually. I really just don't think that it's almost like a Ouija board. You ever looked at the history of the Ouija board?
I don't know much about the history now.
Do you know about it?
Not
Do you have anything you wanted to add to the tarot thing? Because you were talking about runes while the thing was buffering, and I thought that was the runic version of tarot.
Yeah,
what would you think of that?
I don't exactly remember how it works. So it's one of my friends. She's really, really good at it. But
Good at it as far as
she's good at reading. You can actually go and have a spread, and she can tell you basically how the cards hit with if they're reversed or in their standard format as they draw, and basically what they could mean for this question that you ask or the situation you ask about. she can give you like a good reading and oversight of what, like what you're saying, like I'm saying you're making a decision making, you can do a full spread on that certain thing, and it can kind of lead you possibly to some insight. She's hit pretty close on some of the ones she's done for me in the past.
Do you wonder,
pretty much all of them, actually.
Like back in the day, if because like we said, if we're going to use this as like a die method, like this is just we're helping us make decisions, right? Do you think maybe the reason I don't know what you call it, visionaries or whatever, people doing the cards, do you think maybe one of the reasons that they would be like seen as like a scorn was because maybe it was something you could take advantage of people with? You think maybe that was part of it? Because like right now, like for example, we're mad at religious figures, and surely to goodness it wasn't always that way, where Catholic priests are always diddling people. I mean, maybe it's always been that way.
Probably.
I think it just gets like people start abusing the trust of like something that's a good thing.
I think it's probably been like that the whole time. I mean, as soon as you can get somebody to trust you and pay attention to what you're saying, then you're opening them up to manipulation in some sort. So I think when there's money involved in prestige, then I think that's definitely always been around. I always think of, we were talking to King of the Hill. I always think of the episode where Bobby starts reading tarots, and there's the old trope, and it's in a lot of different entertainment where tarot is involved. But like the trope where Bobby's reading Bill's fortune, and he's just learning to read, right? And he's laying out the cards, and he says, "Oh, the Ace of Wands here. That means joy, abundance, and love." And Bill says, "Oh, well, things have been looking up for me." And then he says, "Oh, no, it's upside down. Sadness, desolation, death." And Bill's just like,
That's a pretty good joke, right?
But it's in so many different popular entertainment. When you see trope, that whole idea of, oh, we read it incorrectly. Well, this actually means the opposite. You're going to die or whatever. Or the Hanged Man a lot of times doesn't end up being death, or the Death card is a lot of times
it can be interpreted
like death,
ways, yeah.
But this is
death
but
is
not for
like
you.
an end of something. When death is pulled up, it's like an end of like a certain, not like
Maybe
you're
end of
going to
a
die.
cycle or
It's like it could be an end of a cycle. It could be like, okay, this situation that you asked about is pretty much over, or it could be also leading to a rebirth as well.
Okay.
It reminds me of Stephen King's in The Dark Tower. One of the early things in the first book, the gunslinger is death, but not for you, gunslinger. That's his tower card, tarot card. But yeah, it does come up in a lot of popular culture, and the people under the stairs, that was one that you happened to mention last week.
Live and Let Die, James Bond.
Oh yeah,
It's wasn't it Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, that played the tarot card reader? I'm pretty sure that was a very young.
I really don't remember.
What was her name?
Jane Seymour.
Jane Seymour.
Man,
I'm pretty
she
sure
was a
that was.
babe.
I'm pretty sure that was her one of her first roles. But she was a tarot card reader. I remember he inserted the death card so she'd get it flipped because he put the lever card on top. Tricked her into giving her that tarot. A better word for it. There's not really a good history to the Ouija board. That's what's funny about it. Up until the late 1900s, around the time Parker Brothers released it for the first time. Up until then, they had a history of it with I think it was I think people of Scots and Irish and Old English descent had a pagan ritual of what they called spirit boards. But what they would do is the old mountain ladies would just make them. Get a piece of wood and just write essentially the same thing that's on a Ouija board, but they might have different traditional patterns for it that they would use instead. And then they would do the same, essentially the same thing, but then a company decided they were going to make it. And what caused it was like a side item. It was just there, right? But what caused the boom was the wars. 1940s wars.
Yeah,
all of a sudden you had all these widows who were wanting to talk to their husbands and stuff. And it caused the boom that made the shell, they really started leaving the shelves.
Ben says, I think a good tarot reader has an intuition about how to interpret them. Yeah, if you're going to be good at it, you do have to have that. Yeah, I remember, and speaking of Ouija board, when I was a kid, we used to make them.
Did you?
Yeah, well, we'd make them out of cardboard, and we'd use a shot glass in a little thing that we'd make. We'd make them all different kinds of ways. But if you had enough people working with you, you could kind of always get them to move, and
I do have a
spell
story.
something out for you.
I do have a Ouija board story, and this is the only reason that I will say that maybe there's something to them. Because if I hadn't seen this, that wouldn't have nothing. I was in driver's ed in the gym at UNACA, and Richard Guy. Hell, I don't even know.
I remember Richard.
I hope he's well. I don't know. He's a cool guy.
I've not seen him since.
He had
elementary
it
school.
was him and another kid that I don't remember his name. They had a little one, like it was like these little pocket board games. Remember those things were briefly popular around Polly Pocket and the Mighty Max days. You know, he had a little pocket Ouija board and it had this little thing. And I was super Christian, so I was like, "Oh, those things are stupid. They don't work." And he goes, "Well, I don't know if they work or not. Let's see if they can do it." And I was like, "Let's see if it can read my mind." And I thought of the crucifixion, the most Christian thing possible. And he goes, "Well, it's spelled cross." So he probably just saw me with my cross around my neck. He's probably thinking of Jesus and just, you know. But if Mr. Richard, wherever you're at, if you weren't lying, then the Ouija board did read my mind. I was thinking about crosses.
Well, I got a seance story for you. We used to do Ouija boards and seances when I was a kid. We'd go and stay at my friend's house, and we'd go down in the basement, and we'd make a big, circle around the table, and we'd have like my brothers and his brothers and their friends, and we'd all get together, and we'd have this seance, right? And we'd say, we were trying to reach the spirit of so and so. We'd all be sitting together, holding hands in our, in our circle, and with our candles lit, and if we were trying to reach the spirit of such and such. If you are with us, give us a sign. And we're sitting there, and like we'd been doing this for a while, and all of us young, and really hoping to hear something. And my buddy's younger brother, after probably the 10th time we've said this, he just rips the biggest fart that you ever heard. That kind of broke the seance up. But, that's not the sign we were looking for, I don't think.
Oh, and I misspoke. It wasn't the 40s, it was the 20s. Because it was a combination of the return from the war and the, Spanish flu that was going around that time?
Yeah. Between World War I and the Spanish flu, there was a lot of dead people. Yeah.
And then you were also hit with the Depression right after.
Right,
that was also what gave birth to, what was that? Not John Wayne Gacy, the fucking pogo clown guy. The, Edgar Casey.
Edgar Casey.
So, yeah.
That's a whole other episode.
That's a whole other episode if you want to go into remote viewing and stuff.
For tonight's episode, now that we're kind of going through the beginning here, we kind of like to let everybody get a minute to get into the show. Since we're doing a live stream, we want you to participate in the chat with us. We want you to like and share and subscribe to the channel. If you're already subscribed and you want to hit that notification bell so you'll know when we go live, so you can chime in on the live chat. I'm looking into options for where we can have call-ins on the show. I thought I could get the Discord to work that way, and Skype has been so unreliable that I don't want to depend on it. So I think I may set us up a Google Hangout or just a Google Voice phone number so that people can call in through that. And the trouble is, most of the ways that we have for them to join us on the stream, we have to bring them in through another program and then transfer that audio into our program. So anytime we'd have somebody come over, I'd have to actually mute our microphones for this program and turn them on for the other program. So I haven't figured out how to do it all yet. But I do want to have that feature in. But for right now, if you want to jump in the live chat and give us your thoughts, you can comment on the video afterwards or email us at theironmountainhour@gmail.com. If you have any show ideas, if you have anything to comment, if you have any corrections, whatever it is. We actually reached 200 subscribers this week. Yep.
202.
Yeah, so we're up over 200. That's a little bit of a landmark for us there, or a milestone, not a landmark.
Are we halfway not found?
I don't know.
That's at 404.
Oh, 404, yes. The link you find cannot be found. Yes, so we're halfway to not found. We actually have had a pretty good run over the past month or so with our videos really picking up steam, especially the creepy stuff that we've done. People have really taken to that. And I'm glad people are joining us for that. That's not really been the focus of the channel. That's probably been about 5 out of our 35 videos. What do you think? 5, 6?
Well, if you count of all the episodes, I usually unintentionally veer into something like that by mistake every episode.
Oh yeah, I mean it's kind of an overarching theme.
If anybody's watching and they only want to click on things that have the word Appalachian, I usually end up talking about like Bigfoot or something every episode. So you can click on every video if you want to hear that stuff.
Yeah, and if you see the picture behind us, that made by our buddy Wilbur Hunter. He was in episode 18 with us where we talked about Appalachian cryptids, and he made the poster for us. He designed it. He I kind of gave him. That's pretty much all his design right there altogether. I mean, I gave him a little input on what I might like out of it, but
I like the X-Files, didn't it?
Yeah, and he said, if you'll trust me, I think I'll make something you like, and we do. So thanks, Wilbur. I really appreciate it. I think it sums up the show well. We've got
so much bigger than I expected.
Yeah. We've got the 5G smart tower up there. We've got the the flying saucers, we've got the contrail or the chemtrails, we got the ghosts, we got the Nessie, we got
To get treated.
big eyes, you know.
What am I walking? The ghost lady.
We got our demon here. Yep.
Oh, I didn't. You notice Nessie, and then what is this? The ISR one.
Oh, we got two eyes there, so we got
Mothman.
the swamp creature up there. So yeah, a little bit of all that stuff. We got a playlist up called Creepy IMH.
Take pictures.
I use my hair to fly. Just
Yeah.
Big golf lock. That can be your OnlyFans account. Golf locks. Golf.
Golf locks.
Locks of golf. Big flowing golf. It's you new, but your golf locks cover your private areas. The naughty bits, if you will. God, what were we talking about before we started?
Well,
Like golf, naughty
I was telling you about how the channel was doing and thanking everybody for tuning in and
Oh, yeah.
subscribing.
Thank y'all.
We appreciate you.
We also especially want to thank Tammy Hubbard for her money. She has donated a lot of money. She even donated these tarot cards. She bought every one of these tarot cards.
And why did she donate those?
Tammy Hubbard is a witch. I'm gonna stop right there because she'd probably freak out if I told everybody that. She hates tarot cards, but she loves sex toys and she makes them handmade, artisan level. And if you support this show, you should buy some of her stuff.
Now, are these made out of? Are these rubber? Or are they made of like highly polished wood?
I have no idea.
What are we
She
talking
makes
here?
them out of cyber skin, out of wood. She carves in the wood.
A nice ebony, carefully
Oh,
sanded.
can you imagine if it was like maple dildo?
And
It's gonna have to.
I'm thinking back to the old school there. I mean, I have to imagine that originally they had to be made out of readily available material, such as wood, before latex or whatever
I
they're
don't.
made of now.
Okay. I don't think I need to clarify, but I'm going to clarify. I don't have a vag, okay? But I can imagine it'd be pretty awful on every level, no matter what, if you put wood of any smoothness up there. I mean, like. So I'm just saying, maybe they waited till metal came along.
I don't know. I kind of feel like those things were probably around.
Well, I'm just saying, you got fingers.
Well,
You don't have any. You're not going to get a splinter.
if anybody knows, email us at theironmountainhour@gmail.com. Tammy, I bet you could probably fill us in on that information, being a
That's not fair,
manufacturer.
though. You want them to email you about wooden dildos, but I wasn't allowed to have them email you about cacti.
Oh, you weren't allowed?
No, you said don't email us pictures of you sexually
Cactus
using
play.
cacti.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Oh, wait. No, you winky. You're good.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Don't
you're good.
send us that kind of stuff, folks. We are a serious channel, and we are not trying to catch you sexually assaulting cacti.
Cacti. Do you think they're sentient? I have this theory that I'm really hung on that, and if you're in the chat and if you disagree with me, if you take issue with this, I'll be glad to talk to you about it. I think vegetarians and vegans are far too cocky about what they're doing because they're assuming that there's no sentient plants. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like they're assuming.
Well,
that
there's plenty of
flower.
Well, there's plenty of scientific there's plenty of scientific data available to show that plants likely do feel pain. They have a pain response similar to what animals do.
It knows when they're damaged.
Trees in a forest, they have that their root systems are interconnected, and it's like, hey, our buddy's kind of feeling shitty. Let's give him some more water and nutrients, and then they work with each other.
Dude, when I was like 21, I ate about a half an ounce of mushrooms, and I walked off into the trees with a buddy of mine into the woods for
That'll get it done,
a couple of days. Yeah, it did. And when I was out here walking in the woods, I mean, yeah, you could say it was the influence of the psilocybin, which I'm sure had an effect. But
Doesn't mean it's not true.
I could absolutely feel these trees talking to one another. It was pretty wild because they had tree drama. Some of the trees didn't like one another, and I see why.
Okay.
I see why people are like tree huggers, man. Why the hippies were into tree hugging.
What about the trees that didn't like each other? Were you mad at them for being like mean trees?
No,
or
more of
whatever?
it. I enjoyed myself. More of anything, I was just walking around, going from tree to tree, and I would grab each one as I went by, and I would hug onto it and swing on it, and I would pick up bits of information from it about what was going on in the tree world.
They're like, damn it, Carl.
But it seemed very real at the time. Who knows? But there is scientific evidence that shows that trees do communicate using sound, and like Dustin said, that they will help each other out and things like that.
And I don't think you're necessarily wrong about that. I mean, like, yes, you might have been so geeked up on psychedelics that you may have been in a different reality. But, like, if you look at the way mycelium grows...
B says mushrooms are people.
I don't know if that's true. But I do know the way our brains myelinate is very similar to mycelium. It's really weird that, like, you got vegetable, I think what they call, or like, well, plant, and then there's mycelium, and then there's living creatures like insects, people, and all that crap. It's like they're so close together that I don't know. Like if people understood like the level.
Ben says 100%.
To me or to mushrooms or people.
Probably mushrooms are people.
The mycelium, like the plant needs the mycelium. Like they're both. Like people think that little mushroom that pops up is the thing. Like, oh, look, a little mushroom. But like that little mushroom that pops up probably got 16 feet of dense mycelium that goes down into the
It's
ground.
like a city
That's feeding the
mushrooms,
grass
yeah.
and then taking chemicals from the grass that it needs, and then giving the grass something back in return.
Like that largest living thing up in the Pacific Northwest is that group of mushrooms. That's like,
But it's
what
under
is
the
it
ground.
like? How many miles is it?
Over here, it's huge.
It's big. And that's the whole point, that there's a network under the ground where everything's connected, everything's talking to each other. It's mixed with the plants. Like there's been a real interest in morel mushrooms lately. Morel mushrooms are a symbiotic mushroom. They cannot grow without a tree. So like that's why it's really hard to grow indoors.
Morels.
They're very similar to the amanita, except they don't have psychedelic effects. An amanita needs an evergreen to sustain itself, hence the Christmas tree. And so the morel needs, I forget what the morel needs now, but it grows with the tree root system. So if you can find the tree that it grows with, that's where you'll know to find the mushrooms.
I was trying to tell you about local mushroom farmers here, but they don't have their stuff online, so I'm not sure they want me to tell you. They sell the local restaurants, so yeah, maybe I'll talk to them before I put their name out. But but they're cool people, and if they had their thing online, I would tell you. Yeah. But
mycelium's cool. That's the bottom.
Yes,
line.
it is.
You could see, just go online and look up. I grew some. We bought online one of those little containers, and this time it was. We've grown lion's mane. We've also grown. You can do those wood chips essentially. It was lion's mane growing in a bag of mulch that I forgot to put out last year. I was about to throw it in the trash. I rolled it over, and the whole thing's covered in lion's mane.
Wow.
It's just growing inside.
That's actually,
it's got all that black dye.
you don't want it from the mulch, but
you could probably source it and get it to a different source. But like that lion's mane, the reason it's so important, I know I've mentioned this on the show before. I'm gonna mention it again. It fixes. It very much fixes neuronal decay. So if you can imagine an electrical wire, is this the right camera? Am I talking to?
You're on this one.
This one. If you can imagine an electrical wire is how your brain is wired. An electrical wire has a piece of plastic or rubber that goes over it. Rubber. Rubber in your brain. If the neuron is the electrical wire, the rubber is the rubber sheath that goes over it. That's called myelin in your brain. That erodes. That causes dementia. That causes MS. There's a number of different disorders that are caused by that. Lion's mane is proven scientifically to fix it. It makes your brain. So if you have a history of Alzheimer's and dementia, MS, anything like that, I highly recommend you check out the studies. They poisoned rats on purpose. They gave them their brain damage. Yeah. And it fixed up to 72%, I'm wanting to say. 70%-ish of the decay. So that's huge. So I'm just saying, keep that in mind.
All the bottle says is it improves brain function, but you can buy lion's mane powder.
You can grow it. If you can get a big old bag of sawdust, you can literally grow it. It's just it's a form of mushroom that eats dead wood. It's one of the breaking down mechanisms of the fungi family. And they found it by looking in the South Pacific. They noticed there was just no brain decay in these people, and they noticed that the biggest things they had was they were all eating lion's mane. So they can pom pom mushroom. So.
B says mushroom is the fruit, just like an apple on a tree. Yep, that's a good way to describe it, B. Thank you for that comment.
Subterranean trees and the little mushrooms are the fruits.
That's right. Well, hey, listen, we've been up for about 38 minutes now, and we've given everybody time to get in. So for some of our viewers who are tuning in later, not on the live stream, it may be a little bit long for them. But we're going to get into the main topic of the episode tonight. We're actually, B's the one that gave me this idea because she was showing me a video from Cern of, that's the European Nuclear Research Agency. They do run the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland on the border of Switzerland and France. Well, she sent me this video from Cern that they are going back live. It's been shut down for a while. They had some problems with it. They had like,
weren't they going to make it bigger?
yeah, I don't think they were making the thing bigger. They were making it more powerful.
thought they were gonna
the
make
track is 17 miles around. I think it'd be pretty hard for them to expand that. There is talk
17
of
miles.
there is talk of a larger one, but not by CERN. But CERN, as I said, it's basically the nuclear research agency for European countries. It's in French. I don't know exactly.
666?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Let me show our viewers here
It's like
the logo for CERN. It's an obvious 666,
do you
like
reach
so
a
many other
level
things.
like where you just intentionally? Oh, is that 4 6s though?
Well, it's a 6. Here you got one.
That looks like Google's logo just messed
Here
with
you got
everything,
one.
you know?
Here you got one. And here you got one, and then you got these little tails coming off here. But to me, it looks like a 666. And then you see that all over the place. And Google the Chrome with the 666.
I wonder if you zoomed this out, because a lot of times what happens with, and I'm trying to play devil's advocate because this could be a perfectly reasonable explanation. You're going to prove me wrong here, man, with all their other symbolism. But I wonder if you zoomed out of the circle that they had there, if that wasn't some sort of a mathematical pattern.
Oh, I'm sure that it does.
geometry
I do
and
think
such.
that the 666 is a mathematical equation or a mathematical
to that.
representation. Yeah, I mean it's 2/3 is 66.
Right here, see where the urn is? That's the best capacity. So I'm just wondering if they're not doing some of that on purpose.
Oh, I imagine that they are. These guys are really into a lot of the symbolism. They're a lot of into not just the science, but as we'll see. You see, look at this kind of stuff right here. I mean, of course, this is all.
See, there you go.
It's scientific,
That was
but it's
sacred-
sacred
that was sacred
geometry.
geometry, because they
But
look at it
sacred
differently,
geometry,
yeah.
sacred geometry is just science put to a picture. Basically, it's a visual representation of a repetitive pattern, such as a fractal,
Yeah.
or the Fibonacci sequence that we see throughout nature. And oddly enough, I saw some people that had taken one of the funnier Fibonacci
here.
sequences that I've seen is Donald Trump's head and ear. They follow with his hair. They follow the Fibonacci sequence. I thought that was pretty hilarious. But yeah, you see it throughout nature. But I'm going to show you this video real quick and make sure I got all our shit together. Yeah, this is from CERN to kind of give an idea about what they're doing as they go back into. B says they were updating everything to make more beams and more power. That's right.
beams? What's that
More
mean?
beams where they're slamming.
Beams?
Yeah, they're having electron beams or. And as we go on into,
I
I'm
guess
gonna
I just never thought of them shooting beams.
yeah, that's what they're doing. It's
beam
giant
with
particles. For everybody who doesn't know what a particle accelerator is, Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, they fired it up probably about 15 years ago. Just guessing. Yeah, they
Fired that sucker
They
up.
pulled the string. They what they do is they shoot these big electron beams at each other at close to the speed of light, as close as we can get things to the speed of light, and they slam them in together, and they bust these different particles up to see what happens when you slam different particles together. And they actually found a particle that was predicted by physicists for many years called the Higgs Boson, which is what gives mass to particles. So a lot of people call it the God particle because without this particle, we would basically be a hologram, right? We would be 2 dimensions of information, but this Higgs boson basically allows that information to be projected onto our 3 or 4 or more dimensional reality. They've got some pretty good ideas about there being 10, 11, 12 dimensions with string theory and stuff, and all these different small dimensions inside of one another in big dimensions. And it's hard to really imagine what a dimension is. But if you think about it, the easiest way, we've got 3 dimensions. We've got up and down, we've got left and right, and then back and forth, basically. So we got 3 different lines that we can move on. Then we've got time. That's our 4th dimension. But the idea behind the other dimensions is that there are smaller areas that can be moved into by particles within time and space that aren't necessarily moving along those 3 axes. And a good way to imagine that would be to, like, if you think about the Earth, we're on the Earth, we can move in 3 dimensions on the Earth, but where's the Earth moving in bigger space, right? I mean, it's not actually a different dimension, but it's just a good way to explain it. So we're going around the sun, and then the sun is going around the center of the galaxy, then we don't really our moving up and down or left and right is really irrelevant to the larger movement throughout the galaxy.
Isn't there a physicist thing that shows that the universe overall does have a flat center?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm pretty sure there is like because there was a movie that was bunked that a bunch of those guys like Michio Kaku got tricked into basically doing it. But it's a gravity experiment that they use a trampoline where they try to show how gravity works, and they'll roll like a giant bowling ball out there, and it sinks it down, but real close to it. And then he rolls another one out there, and he just shows how it just rolls to it. But it takes a really long time for it. He said, but in reality, with gravity, it never touches it because it takes too long. And but there's this screen that I've seen where it's like the Earth. It was a meme there from it. It said the Earth might not be flat, but the universe is, and it's just showing that there is a central plane to everything that we can know and observe. So I don't know what that means for physicists. To be honest, I don't even know if I even comprehend half the shit you were talking about with Cern, if I'm being honest. I'm wondering, just for the sake of it, do you think that maybe some of this dimensional stuff might be bullcrap?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like almost like in the only analogy I can even give would be like in philosophy there for a minute. Where like Bertrand Russell, a bunch of those guys got real they got so obsessed with sentence structure that they knew what they were saying they knew that what they were saying was essentially nonsense, but since it logically made sense in the sentence structure, it essentially affected reality in some way, and everybody was like, it blew their brain out because, and essentially, but it was like it was all nonsense. Essentially, everything that they were talking about was nonsense. They just got everybody so convinced that the importance of sentence structure was so vast and important, pretentious, that they made them start thinking stupidly. I'm just wondering if they can't use numbers to make us.
Well, I think to a degree they can, but when you look at the Einstein's general theory of relativity, right? That's what really governs the movement of bodies on a large scale, such as galaxies and planets. You know, we had Newtonian physics that came about in I think the 15th century or the 16th century, and those were kind of the standard. Calculus was, invented by Isaac Newton, and that is a good representation of the physical movement that we see on Earth, of kinetic and potential energy. And we could use calculus to graph these things out and put them on paper and understand the way that things move on our Earth with respect to gravity, with centrifugal force, mass versus acceleration, all these basic ideas of physics as it is on Earth. But when we get into the larger scale, we start looking at galaxies and we start looking at solar systems, and particularly when we get into black holes, a lot of these things don't make sense. And that's where general relativity came in and gave us a better representation on paper of what this actually means. But
the rules change on the subatomic level.
That's right. And we found that. Well, that's where the other dimensions come in. That's where we get into things like quantum physics, and we find that many things on the subatomic level are a matter of probability, and we don't really know how they're going to turn out, but we can gauge, based on certain equations, how what the likelihood that a certain occurrence will happen, and the idea of the extra dimensions is a way to explain how to put those two things together, the massive scale physics of galaxies and black holes.
Come into the idea that okay, because I had physics, I got an A, so I should know some of this stuff, but I just you're like a jelly donut that got too full, and I got jelly coming out one side with the new information coming in the other.
It's easy to forget this stuff too.
Like when they start talking about the electrons and the observer effect, the idea that when you're not measuring it, the electron can be in multiple places, like so. Is that dimensions where the electron could be in multiple spots at the same time?
That could be an explanation for why that is. But we see, we've found that the electron can be, or that energy can come either in a wave or a particle form. Light comes as a wave or a particle. So everything is kind of different, and that's maybe where the dimensions come in, is we don't know why that is. We don't understand why. If we measure light a certain way, it can be measured as a wave. It appears as a wave and a particle. So
What if we just don't know? You ever think maybe our language just gets in the way? Because we're saying wave and particle. What if they're the same thing and we're just...
well, they are, but
Yeah.
that's what we understand. What we don't understand is why they measure differently. You know
We're
why?
just doing the same thing as Bertrand Russell and we're using...
Well, I guess it
structure.
could be.
It's logical and sentence structure.
Yeah.
Because, I guess what I'm trying to get to is the idea that we said all of a sudden we got to the subatomic particles and we went, oh, the rules suddenly changed. Well, what if we did? What if they didn't change? What if there's just something we just don't know? Maybe what if the
That
rules
could be.
don't change and there's just some giant chunk of reality that we just haven't noticed yet, and
Well, it
the
could
rules
be.
are different?
And that's what people at CERN are
What if I'm
trying
full of shit? Get on with the
are
story.
trying to find out. So let's make sure that our folks can hear this thing, and we'll play the CERN video. It'll give you a quick explanation of what they're hoping to accomplish there. We're going to turn on the desktop audio and turn down our monitor a little bit. And here we go. This is the newest video from CERN from a couple of
Oh,
weeks
look at that
ago.
date. 22222 all the way across. Wow. 4. 224 for 222.
So today is a special day. It's the end of the long shutdown for the LHC. Not only the LHC, but also the experiments in the LHC.
It should be alright
and
on
the
the
injector chain
stream,
for
but
the
I don't
LHC.
know.
The long shutdown was used to upgrade the machine, to upgrade the injectors, to create more bright beams in order for the number of collisions in the LHC to increase.
See if you can hear it on there.
Experiments have also upgraded and to be able to detect all these collisions, of course. And today, actually, the beam turned for the very first time again in the LHC. At injection level,
gives
not
elementary
yet
particles
accelerated
mass.
injection.
You can read that, but I'm not going to
The very
pretend like I
first
really
things we're
understand what
going
that
to do
means.
is, with this beam, check out if all the instruments and all the equipment in the LHC is working as it should. Everything has to work at the same time, like an orchestra, where all the music has to play synchronously for it to be beautiful. And that's the same in the LHC. For it to work, everything has to work at the right moment.
Kill the clovid with, surely, if anything can kill the clovid, it's the
Is we're gonna
particles.
put some obstructions
Particle beam.
in the beam line where we hit the particles on this obstruction. This will create a shower of secondary particles, and this can already be detected by the detectors. So the detectors will light up, and the experimentalists can see if their detectors work in all the channels. And then in the coming periods, we will increase the energy of the beam to the world record of 6.8 tera electron volts, and then put the beams in collision. And this will happen in July, when the real physics will start again.
So the real physics starts in July, so who knows what they've got in store for us. The Large Hadron Collider, as I said, they slam particles into each other to see what happens when the different ones hit each other. And B says Higgs field gives elementary particles mass. Yeah, that's why it's called the God particle.
I don't know what that means, B. I don't know if I really understand what that means.
Well, it's like I was saying earlier. If you think
You're muted.
she said no. She says can hear you. She's letting you know she can hear you talk on the stream. That's what I was telling you. But if you look at it as like as a hologram, you know those hologram cards are 2-dimensional, but you can get 3 dimensions out of it, right?
You're saying the Higgs field pulls it into the 3 dimension? Is that what
More or
you're
less, yeah. That's what gives it mass.
saying? So what's it pulling you into, though? What is the 3 dimension?
The world that
Higgs
we're in right now. If all the other elementary particles are there without the Higgs boson, we don't actually come into existence as physical matter. But the Higgs boson is what they say actually gives us mass and creates physical matter. That's why they call it the God particle.
I'm just looking at it like, okay.
Yeah, it's
Let's.
that's the best I can explain it.
My dumb hillbilly brain for just a minute.
Okay.
And let's say you said earlier that reality would be a 2D image of information, and that the Higgs is the reason we split up into 3.
That's more of a that's a general
So
explanation. Yeah.
is the Higgs boson like the substrate that we're shot into? I mean, like, I'm just trying to imagine, like, what is holding the Higgs boson in? Like, what's holding everything in?
I don't know.
I actually don't.
I really don't know.
Do you think we're like being pretentious? Like, do you think
No.
that everything with physics, like, you know, the term, what is it? I think the dude, was it Sturgill Simpson was the one that mainstreamed it here recently to a bunch of country people that didn't understand what it meant. The turtles all the way down. Where it was like essentially it's like a reduction where no matter how far you blow something up or how far you reduce it, eventually is the same thing that just keeps repeating itself over and over again. You know.
And that comes from, I think it was a Native American, from up in Maine or New York, somewhere in New England. And maybe the Micmac. They had the idea that the Earth was on the back of a giant turtle.
Well, Stephen King got that idea then.
He wrote about it in It actually, and the Indians would ask, you know, it was a kind of a running joke, you know, well, if if the Earth is on the back of a great big turtle, then, you know, what's that turtle on? And they'd say, well, it's turtles all the way down.
It's turtles swimming inside of a giant ocean. That giant ocean's inside of this tiny piece of a giant turtle.
Turtle on turtle on turtle action.
Yeah, and I guess it's the idea of what I guess I was trying to say is like, do you think maybe if we just keep measuring, we're just going to keep finding, like, I don't think we're ever going to find, like, we found the Higgs Boson we found it to 2010? We never found it? I don't know. Like, we're going to find the sub-Higgs boson, and then we're going to find the sub-Higgs boson, and then we're going to find the whatever field, and I don't think we're ever going to find the bottom. You're just going to keep going further and further down, and I think you could do the same thing up.
It's kind of like that, they did a good job on a Simpsons intro where they showed the macro to micro thing where, you know, they zoomed out from the house in Springfield, and they saw the Earth, and they saw their solar system, and then they saw the galaxy, and then they saw the universe.
Carl Sagan's Powers of 10.
And as they kept going out, you know, all those orbs turned into subatomic particles, and they zoomed back out again, and you saw the top of Homer's head again, because it's, you know, it has the whole as above, so below thing that we talked about. And that's what a lot of people say, that is, if we keep going deep enough, we're going to be back on the macro level. And if we go deep enough on the macro level, we're going to be back on the micro level somewhere else. So it's hard to really know. I mean, how would we ever know?
You know what a water bear is?
These are more...
Do you know what a water bear is? You know what a water bear is?
No, I've never heard of it.
I'm pretty sure it's the smallest single-celled organism that when you look at it still looks like something that you would recognize as a creature. It doesn't look like just a floating sperm that goes and eats another floating sperm. Like, it looks like a little creature with like 8 legs, and they literally live in 2D. Because like they live inside like little water drops and stuff. But water bears are really cool, and it really kind of changes the way, like, because I was trying to conceptualize in my head like what it would even be like to live in 2D, but wait, there really is creatures that do that, and they're water bears.
Okay, let's look real quick at John Ellis explaining the Higgs boson. Thanks, B, for that suggestion.
I won't understand it, but we will.
Well, let's see what he says here.
Since 1964, we've had this idea proposed by Englert, Braut, and Higgs that empty space is like a medium. And as particles travel through this medium, some of them interact with it, some of them don't interact with it. The ones that do interact with this medium, they acquire masses, and the ones that pass through it without interacting, those are massless particles.
Is it showing?
Let me give you an analogy. Imagine an infinite field of snow extending throughout all of space. Flat, featureless, going in all directions. Maybe the middle of Siberia. Now imagine that you're trying to cross this field of snow. So maybe you're a skier and you skim across the top. That's like a particle that does not interact with the Higgs field. It doesn't sink into the snow. It goes very fast. That's like a particle with no mass traveling at the speed of light. But maybe you've only got snowshoes. In that case, you sink into the Higgs snow field. You get less speed than the skier, less than the speed of light. That's like a particle with mass, because you are interacting with that Higgs snow field. And then finally, if you've just got boots on, then you sink deeply into the snow. You go very, very slowly, and that's like a particle with a big mass. So think of this Higgs field as being like this universal field of snow.
What contains the Higgs?
where does the Higgs boson come in? Well, we all know what snow is made of, right? It's made out of snowflakes. In the same way, this universal Higgs snowfield is made up out of little quanta. Those quanta are like snowflakes. That's what we call the Higgs boson. The Higgs boson has this job of giving masses to all the other elementary particles.
I have issue, but keep going.
If you look at the basic equations of the Standard Model, as written on my t-shirt, they're very symmetric. The way in which all the different particles appear is the same. At least on the top two lines, there's nothing to distinguish particles which have different masses, for example. But this symmetry has to be broken. Electrons are lighter than muons. The top quark is much heavier than the quarks that make up everyday nuclei. So the top two lines, the symmetric lines, cannot be all there is. There has to be something to distinguish between the different types of particle. And that's the job of the Higgs boson. That's the job of the two bottom lines. Depending on how those different types of quark, or the electron and the muon.
All right. I think you got to the meat of it right there at the beginning. So he's going to continue a little bit more, but I think that's I think the snowfield is good representation.
Well, but he was talking when he gets to quarks. I remember the very first time I took physics. I took it, God, I remember, I think I was 22. And they only had up quarks and down quarks. And then I took it again under a different major like 10 years later, and they had a left and a right quark, and they've broken the quarks down even further, and now we have the Higgs boson container. I guess going back to my point is, if the Higgs boson is the snow, there's something that's got to be holding that snow. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I think
the snow is, but I'm saying whether the snow is physical or not, there's got to be a top and a bottom of that shit. You can't just have an infinite field of boson that goes on for all of eternity that contains the entire universe. I just don't. It just doesn't seem plausible to me. There's got to be another. They're going to break it down to where.
Yeah, there may be yet another thing that gives the Higgs boson. Yeah, it may give the Higgs boson power.
Whatever, you know
yeah, well, that's what Cern is looking for. That's the kind of thing they're doing.
They're going to blow everything up in the process.
Well, that's what a lot of people are accusing them of. And this fella right here that we just saw talking about from John Ellis, he is one of the key figures in the Mandela Effect, which is connected to CERN. And CERN and the Large Hadron Collider, they are doing things like the way they found the Higgs boson.
He's involved with CERN?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's one of the lead scientists there. And one of the ways that they found the Higgs boson was by slamming these particles into each other, where they're creating such a massive a small area of a high mass that they actually created miniature black holes. And a lot of people were concerned that they would destroy the fabric of space-time or create a black hole that would suck the Earth into it. And you actually had, respected scientists that were saying that this could be the case.
I remember back when they first fired that thing up. I couldn't comprehend it when I was a kid. Remember the very first time they fired that thing up, I remember some people talking. They were like, yeah, apparently out in the such and such, they're going to create a black hole and suck us all into Europe.
Yeah. Well, there's particle accelerators in several places.
What about a tiny black hole? Like, how do you comprehend,
Well, what a black hole is where you basically have so much mass in such a small space that it causes space-time to collapse on itself. Now, in most cases, that is like in the case of our supermassive black holes at the center of the galaxy. You have all the mass of all these stars and gravity coming in together, and it has formed a infinite point of infinite mass in such a small place that it just continues sucking in everything into it.
Spaghettification.
Yes, spaghettification.
Something I remember from.
Yeah, and they recently confirmed Stephen Hawking's theory that there would be blasts of cosmic, or no, that wouldn't actually be cosmic radiation. But they took a picture of the center of the galaxy of our black hole, and they've actually confirmed that Hawking was correct, that these things do spit out bits of energy. Because it sucks in so much energy, but it can't suck it all in, and all this compression of matter actually causes some of this energy to spit off, just like Hawking thought it would. So that was confirmed recently. But with CERN, they are looking on the micro level, basically the small version of these things. This is, the quantum physics version. The black holes, at the supermassive black holes in the center of the galaxies in particular, are so far away, it's hard to really study them like we can study these things here if we smash stuff together over in Switzerland. And we have particle accelerators all over the place. In America, there are some too.
Scary, isn't it?
Let's see, where is that one in America? I should have pulled this up.
Well, didn't they find out that like a young
I think it's in Texas.
person built like one of the
New York,
garage
yeah.
at some point?
I don't know about that. This one in New York was pretty good size.
Was like
It was a- it was.
that basically built like a nuclear device.
Yeah, he built several nuclear devices. The one,
How? Access.
well, he actually took smoke-
Dexter?
No, he took a
Plutonium.
americium out of smoke detectors. It's a nuclear material that's in
So
smoke
why
detectors.
can he do that?
And he
People haven't
could-
done it.
Well, because he died for one from exposure
messing
to
with
nuclear
nuclear
material. Yeah, but yeah, I'm not, we'll get into him on another show.
We'll do that in the same one as the dude that swam in the nuclear stuff.
Yeah,
And compare
yeah,
those
yeah.
two characters. Why did Kid
Yeah.
die and he didn't?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, because we run a little bit long on the intro, and I want to be sure we
Oh,
have
yeah, we
time
figured
to
I'd talk about the Superman.
hit this topic
Yeah, too.
and do a couple other things. So, yeah, so the New York Particle Accelerator, it just came on. I don't even think it's online yet. Actually,
They got one in New York now.
well, they're building it. I don't think it's online yet. Let's
How
see.
long is it going to be?
This article's from 2012 or 2020, and it'll be up and running in 2030.
2030.
Seems like they have one already in the United States.
There's your 666 right there.
I know we do have a particle accelerator in Oak Ridge, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But it's a different kind. It's a linear neutron
What's
accelerator.
that mean? They fire it straight.
Well, we're going to get.
How do they get the particles to curve?
We're
in
going to
that
get
giant
into.
loop?
Well, they use supercooled magnets to actually do it. There's like superpowered electromagnets all the way around because they would be so hot that they would burn the tunnel up if they didn't. They've got to keep them. They've got to keep them at the right temperature to hold these particle beams as they go through. They have to have the curvature just right so that particle can keep a high enough speed. But it's just like a car.
Maglev, like a train.
Well, yeah. If you imagine, like, if you're in your car in the rain and you're going in a straight line and you're accelerating, you take your front wheel drive car, Tim, and you are going in the rain at full acceleration, and all of a sudden you just turn the wheel to the right and you keep accelerating. What are you going to do? You're going to go
I'm a
straight.
badass driver. I'll drift through.
You're
that
going to
bit
go
like a
straight,
mofo.
but you're just going to drift over to the right a little bit. You're not really going to do a right turn because you don't have the traction to turn the car.
That really is. I mean, I'm
It's the
just
same
having
thing with an electron.
issue with the idea that you can even curve particles using magnets to begin with. I guess that's what my brain is hung up on while you're trying to explain the drifting part. Because I'm like, wait, you can curve particles using giant magnets that also get so hot that you have to super cool them, and there's 17 miles of that.
Yep.
What are we doing?
Trying to see what the fuck happens when we smash these things into each other.
Continue, Cliff. I mean, all those facts just add up when you're sitting there thinking that there's 17 miles.
Well, I mean, what do you?
Magnets so we can smash together things that we can't see.
Well, I mean, that's what scientists are into, man, is figuring out what makes the world work. And
Speaking of which, should we not change the word? You know, we keep saying trust the science, not to get on any even COVID or anything.
don't trust the
We keep saying trust the science. Shouldn't we just change that to trust the measurements? Because that's what science is, right?
Yeah.
We don't trust the measurements because we've already proven that we trust what we want to believe and when it suits our opinions. Continue. Trust the measurements.
Well,
As I'm saying, don't trust the measurements because I'm doubting the subatomic realm.
if you really want to learn about the Large Hadron Collider, there's lots of videos on it. We're not going to. I mean, I don't want to sit you through any
There's
videos.
no way we could explain.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm asking. I feel like I'm asking really stupid questions, but keep in mind, I've had 2 physics classes.
Well,
I can't even pretend like I understand the subatomic world because physics really doesn't get you doesn't get you beyond why that happens when I hit my finger out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that's Newtonian physics there, but that's what the subject of quantum physics and, the idea of searching for interdimension, smaller dimensions, that's what that does attempt to explain is beyond that. Yeah, I mean, it's not exact science. It's but like the sheer idea that you can only predict with certain probabilities that things are going to happen shows you that it's it's not an exact science. And the whole idea of science is that it's supposed to be exact. So, Make of that what you will. I don't know what else to tell you.
A little bit of a catch-22, isn't it?
Yep, it sure is.
I'm an idiot. I'm a musician, so don't listen to me when I talk about science stuff. Go ahead.
Well, no, it's good. It's good to have that in there. It's good to be looking at it from different perspectives.
feel
That's
like
the whole idea of this
sometimes-
show, Tim.
Like, don't you feel like sometimes when you're talking, because you probably talk to more people than I do, you're more social. Like you feel like sometimes when you're talking to people about a subject they understand very well, that sometimes you could ask a question that sounds stupid that they just might not think about because they've been so involved in that subject so long that just really simple stuff doesn't pop. Because, I mean, people have done it to me with something like, somebody might just see a different angle at it. And I know that just sounds stupid, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, maybe they're so obsessed with the numbers that they don't realize that those numbers are never going to stop. And I guess maybe they still need to see that the numbers aren't going to stop.
Turtles all the way down, and it's turtles all the way up too. Because when you go out on the macro scale, you look at you look at the cosmic background radiation. It just goes on and goes on. I mean, we look as far back as we can see, and there's no end to it. And with the James Webb Space Telescopes, they can look back further than ever. And with infrared imaging, they can go on back, billions and billions of years ago to what the universe looked like then, but there's still more to see, and there's always something to look past that they can't back past. So I think no matter how small or big you get, at least at our current ability to understand things, there's always more to see. And I think it's good that we have people looking at that. But I think there's some odd stuff going on at CERN. A lot of people have attributed many crazy things in space-time that don't make any sense to the goings-on at CERN, such as the Mandela Effect. And I want to show you, let's see, let me find that real quick. I should have this pulled up already.
Oh, well, there you go. You're about to get to the, I don't doubt that they're not, actually, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate on all this stuff. I actually do think they're doing real science and whatnot. I think what freaks a lot of people out in the, not even conspiracy world, just the general public, because this wasn't brought to my attention by conspiracy. This was brought to me a girl that just worked at Food City, and she was like, doesn't that freak you out? Because she was into Hinduism. Mm-hmm. And she was like, doesn't it freak you out that the people that are messing with the space-time continuum also use the god of destruction as their icon? Like, it makes sense, like we were talking before the show started, that they would use the goddess Shiva because they're destroying things, they're colliding particles.
Yep.
But I think it's fair to say that's concerning.
Well, yeah, and with Shiva, you're looking at disconcerting.
The Gothism.
Yep.
But yeah, they're using Shiva, who is the goddess of I don't know. I don't pretend to know a lot about the Hindu gods or anything, but Shiva is the goddess of destruction. But like we said with the tarot cards, destruction doesn't always mean
Well, they do mean it that way, though, because they're literally blowing up particles trying to create miniature black holes.
Well, yes, and I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt here as far as, trying to, I guess, do your idea of the devil's advocate and say, well, let's look at it in the most innocent way possible. But I don't know that that's, the way that they mean things. That's all there is to it. There is that picture.
Right here it said that this one of the things it came from was Department of India in Energy, or the Department of Energy in India was mentioned in that reference.
Yeah, India did give it to him. Yeah.
Okay, so the Department of Energy in India gave that to CERN.
Yep.
Okay, well that makes a little bit more sense that they didn't specifically choose that.
Well, I think it's interesting. Oppenheimer referred to Shiva and quoted Shiva when he invented.
Yeah.
The atomic bomb.
Yeah, but doesn't it make, like, I think maybe he was being a little hyperbolic with that. It makes more sense that Hindus would give that statue to him, is all I'm trying to say. Because they understand it.
A little bit of the Gothard Tunnel ceremony here while we're talking. Some of this stuff they did when they opened. The Gothard Tunnel is the biggest tunnel in the world. It's opened right near CERN, right near the Large Hadron Collider. A lot of people say these things are connected and that this was
what the hell are they doing? Weird, like Hunger Games.
Oh, yeah.
Here comes District 12.
It just gets weirder. There's a lot of, I don't know if this is YouTube, so it may not show all the nudity. But
Hope.
Let's see what we got here. Yep.
Supporting a pagan ritual without some tots. Alright, slinging some powder.
I do have some of the nudity
You got any
pulled up
volume
here.
on that?
Yeah, I guess we'll do some volume.
Like I said, it still looks like District 12 with a coal train rolling in. She looked like she didn't enjoy that though. She was like, I don't like tits. I love the helmet.
I was about to tell you, looks like he likes hanging on to that other fella, don't he?
I do wonder, like, is this pagan rituals or is this just about like a bunch of art and theater students being really weird?
Probably both. Pagan rituals are the best time for art and theater students to be really weird with one another.
Is it?
Well, what do you think?
No, if I want to go out in the woods and be naked with people, it's not theater students.
This doesn't even have the really weird stuff here.
Oh, whoa. That was something looked like from Silent Hill. Alright, now we're just Cirque du Soleil level.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're getting some weird shit. The skulls.
It actually gets weirder. This is just a 6-minute clip. It was a really long ceremony. They did a full production.
But you see how it's starting to involve stuff that would be more from their pagan culture, though?
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember this parade, but I remember the end of it when it gets real weird with all the goat people and shit.
Mm-hmm. Is that Bill Gates? Let's
Sure,
skip all
all
of
he's
it.
hearing is lapel mic.
We don't have 6 minutes to spend on the whole thing, but if y'all want to watch that, you can check it out. It's some pretty interesting, some pretty creepy stuff, and there's a little more than that too. But that's actually not Cern. That's just somewhere. It's just right near Cern.
Gothard Tunnel.
Yeah,
Whatever that is.
Gothard
What is
Tunnel.
the Gothard Tunnel?
It's the deepest tunnel in the world over there in Switzerland. That they did that. The
What was
Swiss
the point of
government.
doing it?
I'm pretty sure
What's
the
at the
Swiss
bottom?
government did that. I mean, it's as it goes. Let's look it up real quick.
I mean, if we're going to go with the theme of the show, people that do weird shit, maybe they do it for a reason. So what's the point of this giant tunnel?
Dancing haystacks, not whirling dervishes. Let's just look up Gothard Tunnel here. It's a railway tunnel and
There you
forms the summit of the Gothard Railway in Switzerland. And it bypasses the St. Gothard Pass, a single-bore tunnel accommodating a standard double-gauge railway throughout.
So they're celebrating the depth of...
This is about the Gothard Base Tunnel. That's the 1882 Gothard Tunnel. Okay, here we go. This is through the Alps in Switzerland, and it is 35 miles long. It's the world's longest railway and deepest traffic tunnel. And let's see, anything significant about here? No, nothing other
the
than
dates up here, if you want to get real picky about June 2016 to December 11, 2016. Nothing super. But then again, I'm not real familiar with the numerology of that culture.
Well, the idea behind the Mandela Effect is basically that when CERN fired up and they started bashing all these particles together and making black holes, that they actually created parallel dimensions. And that's one of the things that they were trying to do, is saying that they could open up gateways to parallel dimensions. And a lot of people think that maybe they did in fact do that, and some of these dimensions colliding are what has caused some of the discrepancies that we've seen in our world today, where we see things like a lot of people who remember the Berenstain Bears rather than the Berenstain Bears. I personally do remember the Berenstain Bears. That's probably the only Mandela Effect thing that I've actually personally experienced with.
Or Berenstain.
I remember Berenstain, and I remember
George having a tail.
I remember
That's what I do remember.
specifically talking with this kid named Robbie Bowers, and he called him the Berenstain Bears. And I was like, why are you saying Berenstain? Look, it says Bereen, Stein. That's Berenstain. That's
So
not
using that,
Berenstain.
wouldn't the Mandela Effect had to have been back then?
Well, the idea is that I was actually in a different dimension that we are in now, and that our worlds collided, and in the
But would they have collided back then, wouldn't they?
well, in this world, no, because back then we would have been in a different world. But then at some point when the Large Hadron Collider fired up, these worlds merged, and I came, somebody who was in a world where the Berenstain Bears existed, I merged from that world into a world where the Berenstain Bears existed. And there's a lot of people, B, for example, she distinctly remembers watching Shazam.
Yes.
With Sinbad the Genie.
It was called Sin, or was it Shazam, or was it Sinbad? With
Sinbad was a genie. In my world, it was Kazam with Shaq, and he was a genie.
both.
I don't remember Shazam.
Sin, the one that people are being accused of misremembering, would be Shaq in Kazam. There is no Kazam movie.
Yeah, there is.
Is there?
Yeah, in
Shaq in
our world we have. You see, you're in the wrong world, buddy. In this world, Kazam exists with Shaq as a genie.
The thing I remember both of them, and I was like, didn't the one with Shaq just come out? Why are they doing another basically the same movie?
See, I remember
With
Kazam
Sinbad.
with Shaq, but I don't
Okay,
remember
yeah.
Shazam with Shaq.
No, see, this is weird. I remember that movie Shazam existed, but it was Sinbad.
And people have made a movie cover since then. Sinbad.
No, I mean, I'm just telling you, I remember Sinbad being in a movie called Shazam, and I don't remember Shaq.
See,
being in
Google
it.
says,
Shaq looks like a much funner one. Nothing against
despite
Sinbad.
what people believe, this Shazam movie simply does
Sinbad
not
Sailor.
exist. However, Sinbad the Sailor movie marathon in 1994, which he dressed up as a genie.
It don't look right to me though. Like I swear, I remember this. I ain't trying to be UFO on you people. I ain't trying to get too geeky here, but I swear to God, I remember this cover
Yes.
with fucking Sinbad,
Sinbad.
going.
Well,
"Eh."
Like this right here. I've seen this.
I
Where'd it go?
remember it too.
There it is.
No, I'm saying none of this
Where'd it
stuff
go?
that you're showing me, none of this looks familiar to me. I'm saying I remember this, but I remember that being Sinbad. So I
Like
could
this?
remember that wrong. But no, I don't remember that. That looks like I Dream of Genie recreate. I'm telling you, I remember that picture right here. But that wasn't big old sexy Shaq. That was Sinbad doing that.
See, that's what B says too.
I remember both of them.
I have no
and
memory of
I was
it.
like, I strictly remember.
That's a weird one because I'm not. Because I can really chalk those up like who pays attention to a tail and a monkey if you're looking at the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. You're a kid. You're looking at McDonald's toys from when you're 2 years old, and you can misremember. I swear to God, I don't remember a movie with Shaq in it called Kazam. I remember all the other big Shaq movies, but I don't remember that one.
Well, what do you remember about like in Star Wars? Is it Luke, I am your father?
I think that's a memory one because he does say Luke. He just says it. No, Luke.
No.
Space. I am your father,
No,
and
he
people
doesn't.
put that Luke on. You can watch it.
He says,
"No,
Luke."
Luke. I am your
No.
father.
He says no. I am your
I looked it up today.
No.
It said Luke as of about
He
40
says Luke
minutes ago.
He says Luke before that, but he does not say Luke,
buffing
I am your
again.
father. Damn it.
Both, but I'm gonna find
No,
it. Your Wi-Fi's fine.
he doesn't. He says
I'll
he
find it in my
says
history.
he does say Luke before that,
So
but he
that's what I'm
does not.
saying,
But he does not say it before I am your father. He says no.
No,
I am
Luke.
your father. But actually, James Earl Jones, the actor who played Darth Vader, he says that he remembers it being in the script and saying, "Luke, I am your father." But
Does he?
it's what he
Yeah,
says.
I'm gonna find out here in a second.
I had one recently that I don't know if it may have just been me, but there's a song by Porcupine Tree. It's be called Creator Has a Master Tape. But I remember his creator had a masterpiece. Strictly until literally 6 months ago, I listened to the album and I stopped. I had it on my earbud at work, and I stopped right when it said that. I'm like, wait, what
This used to be
happened?
something different.
And then I even looked it up, and I was trying to see if there was any Mandela Effect stuff for it. I can't find anything. I'm like, is it a new one and no one else has caught on yet, or
Maybe.
or have I just literally misheard this and even misread the title to that? Because whenever I typed it in, I type it in as masterpiece.
Strange things.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had something interesting to add to it. The Bernstein Bears is the only one I know. I mean, I can remember.
Yeah, we're going still.
We're going good.
Yeah, just you can kick yours out. We're going. Yeah, that's honestly the only that was actually a candid discovery because I swear to God I remember the Sinbad one versus the Shaq one.
And
But I never watched them though, so that could totally be my mind condensing a bunch of images into something that makes more sense, because his name is Sinbad, I don't know.
but what about me remembering both of them?
That's strange. Maybe Dustin's from two different universes.
So
I'm the weird one.
I guess to make all this connect together, since you probably understand way more about it too. You do a better job explaining this physics stuff. how does the physics with the Mandela effect, like, how would CERN be causing us to all be remembering things wrong?
If by
Because
ripping the tiny black holes, it's pulling matter, which could be in the space-time continuum on top of itself. You know, if you have two things right here and then you have that one, it could push it. Could
Like a
pull
whole
their-
person?
well, they're saying they're wanting to open up a whole. Let's look up a quote from real quick because I should have this pulled up, but
I'm saying, are they saying like we're pulling whole groups of people in different dimensions and crisscrossing people over? Is that the theory?
yes, I'll pull whole worlds.
Whole worlds?
Yes.
Well, how would that work if another planet got halfway crisscrossed to another planet? Is that where, like, so that's
No, not like whole, not whole worlds, whole universes, all the other dimensions. Here's
Well, that's why the history doesn't make sense.
let's look at this from
Well, if they pull buildings
from
places, they don't.
in 2010. Physicists probing the origins of the cosmos. Oh, I gotta switch to the other camera so viewers can see this real quick.
Yeah, it is. It's dialing again, but
Look, I'm getting. How did she do that emoji there? Where
my emoji.
she
Okay, I
gave
thought
it? She
it
gave
was
it the.
No. That's an emoji I don't have access to.
Oh, I have it on mine.
I
Buffer.
don't think there's anything we can do about it. So,
Okay.
y'all want to tap out? Y'all free to, but I think it's.
We'll be back next Sunday if you do. Sorry, this is from 2010 from Reuters. CERN scientists eye parallel universe breakthrough. Physicists probing the origins of the cosmos hope next year they will turn up proofs of the existence of concepts long dear to science fiction writers, such as hidden worlds and extra dimensions. There's a picture of the Carina Nebula. They're firing up the LHC at Geneva, and let's see.
Computer still plugged in.
Yeah. I want to find where they said they could.
Proton collision.
This is where they're explaining how that they may be able to recreate basically the Big Bang on a small scale and create the conditions that were present after the Big Bang.
Do you think that would mean they would create very, very tiny versions of universes?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
the theory, that
Yes.
there'd be itty bitty cliffs somewhere down in there.
Yes, and the idea that some people are saying is that they've actually combined those universes, like our universe that we actually live in has pulled in parts of the other universe, or that those other universes has pulled us from this universe into it. So we start seeing inconsistencies, and they show themselves in pop culture because that's the thing that most people have access to. Like everybody's seen Star Wars, so a lot of people remember it. Personally, I don't know. I think there's a lot of them that's like, I can remember clearly in, like, when I was watching Ninja Turtles, the movie, in like second or third grade, whenever it was when it came out, and I was in school, and one of the more popular kids who had been to see the movie had started quoting the movie, and they misquoted it, but all the other kids started saying it the same way that they did. So I feel like maybe our culture does that.
I feel like
on a larger scale.
A lot of the Mandela Effect is that.
Yeah.
I just, but like, how do I explain the Sinbad one just now, other than just garbage memory?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't have an explanation for it. I'm just saying a lot of people are saying that it's because these universes are combining. And one of the reasons it's called the Mandela Effect is because a lot of people seem to remember Nelson Mandela dying in prison in the 1980s after he was released from prison, he became president of South America, and he died in 2013. And the thing started showing up basically, and some people say that it was in 2014. There was a video with that physicist John Ellis that we showed there explaining the Higgs boson, and he was talking about Cern, and it had been open for, I think 2010 was when they were firing it up to try to hit parallel dimensions. They've been doing that for 4 years, and he's holding a poster board in his, I don't remember if he's holding it or it's sitting in front of him, but there's a poster board in his office, and it says Mandela, and then behind it there's another poster board that says Bond number 1, and then when you look up Bond number 1, the first guy to play James Bond, I think his name was Craig Nelson, in the very first Bond movie. Before even Sean Connery, there was this guy Craig Nelson. Well, so you had Nelson and Mandela, and then that's when people started saying, like, look, this is a hat tip to the idea that Mandela is different. and then you had the Berenstein Bears. You had there was something to do with the movie The Mask. I don't remember that one, but people said Sally Field also was one, and they thought her name in their universe was Sally Fields. But here she's Sally Field, and it actually, coincidentally, maybe, perhaps not, turns out that her brother is actually one of the physicists that works in Cern that actually helped to discover the Higgs boson.
Not the one that would featured. There was a Craig dude. It was not. Sean Connery was James Bond all the way up until On Her Majesty's Secret Service, or which one? I remember talking about he was an Australian dude. He only was in one movie, and he just did not interact with Hollywood very well. He hated it and refused to, like, he dressed like a hippie in between showings. And
Barry Nelson.
Barry
that's his
Nelson,
name.
yeah.
I wonder if that's why they called it. You ever watch Archer?
I know the show. But
I wonder
I've
if
not watched
they
it.
named Barry after him.
Might be. He was like, if you go back and watch the one with Barry Nelson, I think it's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's probably one of the best ones. It's one of the best Bond movies. And he was probably one of the better Bonds. They had to teach him how to speak like a Brit because he talked Australian, had that high sort of nasally pitch that Australians had to teach him to bring it down.
He was in Casino Royale, the 1954. He was the first actor to play James Bond
Casino Royale.
in the first Casino
I
Royale.
get On Her Majesty's Secret Service. That's like Timothy Dalton, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Timothy Dalton. That's a 80s
All the way at
Bond.
the very beginning with that and Living Daylights. So
Yeah. And License to Kill, maybe?
No, License to Kill, I'm pretty sure was also Sean.
Was it?
Pretty sure.
Maybe, I don't know. It was one of those 80 ones.
We haven't brought up what's his face yet. God, what is his name? The only one that actually is British.
Pierce Brosnan?
Roger Moore. Oh no, Pierce Brosnan. Roger Moore was like he had like blue eyes or something. Sean Connery was Scottish.
Yeah. I liked Roger Moore, but he was like,
I liked Roger Moore.
he was a little playful. I don't know. He was a
Well, yeah, and
little cheeky.
I thought, well, my issue with some of the Roger Moore ones were they started allowing, not in the early ones, but some of the later ones, like especially like Octopussy and The Spy Who Loved Me, they started adding that where they were allowed to be almost Mike Myers, like the pigeon does a double take at one point on one of them.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he'll at one point that maybe he'll break the fourth wall or something.
Yeah.
And they never did that in Sean Connery. And they never did it with
anybody
literally
else,
the
yeah.
only Bond that they were allowed to do that with. And a lot of people saw it as almost like a they allowed him to do it because he was retiring, essentially. Like he had been the Bond for so long. He honestly stayed Bond for too long. Like towards the end of his career, he looked honestly like when they would have like Shatner fighting in the old Star, like some of the later Star Trek ones, where it was like, you know, that punch had no power behind it, but the guy's faking a little too good. But I do like the Moore movies. I think those are pretty good movies.
A lot of people, I don't know. I've liked all the Bonds, really.
I like most of them.
Yeah, I've liked all of them. I've not seen Barry Nelson, to be honest. So
I haven't caught up past
seen
the
the
newest
Daniel Craig
Casino
Casino
Royale.
Royale.
That's the last one
I've seen about half of Quantum of Solace. I need to finish watching that.
Fell asleep.
Yeah, dude, it put me to sleep too.
sleep.
Yeah, same here. And honestly, I had to watch. It took me a couple times to make it through Casino Royale. But speaking of Bond, that's another one of the Mandela effects. Is
it?
in Moonraker? Is it with Jaws?
Okay, keep going. He's in a couple, but Moonraker Jaws.
Where he meets the girl at the end of it. And where are you guys coming from? I'm about to move to North Carolina in the Raleigh area. We're here in Carter County, Tennessee, Smarty Pants. Thank you for the comment. And
Raleigh,
you're going to
how far away is
be
Raleigh?
pretty close, about 2 hours away from us.
Is it?
Yeah, so something like that.
We're almost in North Carolina.
We're on the other side of the mountain. Yeah, we're all the way on the northeast corner of Tennessee, just right over the mountain from North Carolina. So actually the mountain we're on, the Iron Mountain, goes on into North Carolina. We had a viewer last week who was talking with us, who was from the other side of the Iron Mountain on North Carolina. She commented on one of the other videos. But she said she had subscribed to us, so hope she's viewing now.
The Tennessee accent that we have is not like, if you go, I guess, start at our area and then you move further west, the accent changes, what, 2 or 3 times?
Yeah,
Because
easy.
ours is way more similar probably to what you would consider like a North Carolina Appalachian accent,
Yeah.
because of our proximity. We're almost in North Carolina.
I was trying to find her comment because I wanted to shout her out for All right, tune in. We've got a lot of content here, though. It takes us a little bit to go with it. We've been doing this since September of 2022 or 2021, and we're still learning, still growing at it, but we're kind of getting the hang of doing some cool stuff with it. And I'm trying to look at the comments here on this particular video so that I can let me know who we're talking to here. Where's she at? We got so many comments on this video. Was it Brenda? No, it wasn't Brenda. Thank you, Brenda. Comment. There's just so many comments on this video now. I can't find it.
Mr. Ballin brought me here. I don't know who Mr. Ballin is, but
He does creepy videos. George says it's boring.
you might be right.
I said thank you for your input, George. Maybe we can make the show better. If George thinks it's boring, then it's boring to George. But
Actually, I guess it depends on who you're listening to, but like, I prefer white noise entertainment where I can listen to long content.
yeah,
in and out
I mean,
if I need to.
it's a long conversation. It's not supposed to be anything that's supposed to like keep your attention, keep you glued to the screen for like 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever your typical YouTube video is. It's a long form conversation. We're talking about lots of crazy shit, and you can tune in and out as needed. You might want to look at it again.
Justin Gaethje's older brother has a podcast.
Yeah, somebody thinks I look like Justin Gaethje. Apparently,
It might be the look in your eyes.
I don't know. Might be.
That's funny.
But at any rate, dang it, I wish I could remember find you on here so I could call you up by name and say
Call
thank
you
you
out
for
by
watching.
name.
And say thank you
Yes.
for watching.
No, thank you for watching. I
Yes.
thought she's gonna call him out for something mean. Like
No, and thank her for her comment because she was hitting us from the other side of the Iron Mountain. And
anybody been out there that's maybe you're having some issues with our lag? Well, step outside and check out that moon.
yeah,
Go check out.
yeah.
The moon.
Don't forget the
getting ready to
eclipse.
really get going.
We're fixing to check that out. It's 11:36 now. The totality is the totality is a little after midnight. So if y'all are going to check out the eclipse, we don't do that for too long. It might be a good time to take your phone outside and have a peek right now.
At midnight, in case I